Welcome to the Round 6 Fantasy Take TV podcast. Another week of tough week for us boys, I think, but hopefully better things to come. We got a lot to discuss this week. The ruck line, what the hell? Grundy's gone down. That's the first thing that we'll get to this week. We'll talk about strategies on how to close the gap, what moves we can make, a few opportunities available. We'll talk about each line, which targets we're looking at, and certain price brackets. And we'll talk about rookies because rookies are quite interesting this week. So they definitely need to be touched on. We'll go through captains and whatnot as well. Joining me today is JD. What's going on?
George, I'm feeling really good about this week. Very optimistic for what's to come. And I can't wait to get stuck into another podcast with you two.
Stop it. JD, you've been sarcastically positive all week in Discord.
He's trying to reverse his luck. It's just not working.
It's not sarcasm. If you say something positive, you'll see something positive.
Have you been reading The Secret? Have you? Anyway, and I should JD. I should ask, how did you go this week?
Not to my optimal level, but that's all right. Better days are to come. I think I scored, 21-2? Was that it? Was that I wrote it down, George.
Okay, what were your trades?
Didn't your fantasy's team score better?
Yeah. My fantasy team did score better. Yep, 21-50 in that. Yeah, it was 21-1-2. So I traded out Grundy, Rowell, and Horn Francis to DeGoey, Bruce, and Petrarca. So lost points and money on that trade, but we play for the long game. As we always say, stay positive. Better days are on their way, and I definitely feel that's the case with my team.
How'd you go?
George, how are you, mate? Yeah, look, honestly, slightly worse than JD by about 4 points. So 21.08, dropped a few thousand. So I think, I'm now, well, you'll say in a sec, but you're ahead of me now. And 3 trades I did was pretty funny in the end. Like, my team will be better shape for it. Not that it's in good shape, but it'll be better shape. It was Bowie, Rowell, and Grundy out to Bruce, Sicily, and Steele. So the 2 primos compared to what JD did actually scored well, but hilariously, the blokes I've traded out all tonned up. So it was 6 tons in the 3 moves in and out, and didn't really go anywhere in points. But as I said, I think I'll be better in the long run for those trades. But yeah, who knows? We'll see. How'd you go, George?
And when your team is stacked full of talent like yours, of course you're going to be trading out tons for other tons. That's just what to expect from you.
Yeah, I think they were my only tons all weekend. So. Oh man, let's just move on.
Are you gonna do this the whole podcast?
Do what? This is who I am. I'm a positive person.
All right, so I have to try and keep it together now because of JP. I went
such a good mood that when you laugh, I laugh. I can't help it.
All right, I went the whole to Sicily. Big tick because I had to pick someone. I went Hinge to Hobbs, failed because Hobbs looked in a dead roll. And I went Rowell to Petrarca. So I didn't want Hobbs, but woke up Sunday morning. Roses has cuff. I'm like, oh shit, like what do I do here? So it was Hobbs or Perez. Made the call on Hobbs. Did fit my structure a bit better, but no, I could not have fielded Nick Martin if I went to, or I could have fielded him over Lipinski actually, but going Perez would have meant Nick Martin on the bench. So I went for Hobbs. Both didn't look super great. I think Perez probably looked a little better, but we move on. So tough week again. I think we all had Jack Hayes on field, which did not help. So Petrarca.
Just the ton last week. Get the 16 this week.
That's all right.
Yeah, I think with both Rochelle and Hayes have managed to do the same, like miss all the tons, apart from maybe one of them, then score all the poor scores. But as Michael Jordan says, missed more than 9,000 shots in my career, lost almost 300 games, 26 times been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed, failed over and over again in life, and that's why I succeed. And I feel like that's the case with us. Yes, we missed the shot this week, but we will succeed. So let's move on to greener pastures and talk about this week, shall we?
I'm trying to be professional. I'm trying to. Oh my god, you're so full of shit. It's not even funny. But... Anyway,
I'll quickly start with Grundy.
We'll try and get it together.
I got the injury up here and what they've said. So, but says he'll miss a number of weeks. And look, I think they're saying 2 to 3 months. Scans today revealed that he's got the PCL injury in his right knee we all saw it, I think, watching the game. And credit to him, he kicked on and scored like a 40, 50-point quarter in the last with the knee injury, which is just insane. So good for those that had him, that he didn't, sort of peter out and lose more cash. He was sort of able to minimize that damage. But yeah, he'll be out for 2 to 3 months and he'll have to go. So the question is, obviously, boys, what are you doing in the ruck line, George? What do you think? Is it the Bruce Hayes season?
Well, you guys traded Grundy, which was...
Yeah.
I understand, because like missing out on Sam Hayes cash gen is we really need it, I think.
Now,
so So I still have Grundy. What do we do with this? So I think this week I have committed to Clayton Oliver, given his fixture, given his price, given his break even. Down 70, 60k from his starting price. I had planned to get in Oliver this week. I was hoping for 600. Looks like we're paying 620. One more big game in the next 2 or 3, and he is gone. So I'll be grabbing Clayton Oliver. Now, what does this mean? Like, people want to go to Gawn. If you want to go to Gawn, fine. I think, Gawn is actually like at his starting price again, like 660, something like that. So I'll be running the Praise ruck line. Appropriate name. Praise the Lord, I need help with this. So it means that, like, I was looking to move on Cherry probably in 2 weeks. That's not happening because I see Bruce at R1, for God's sake, and Sam Hayes at R2. Both had injuries in the preseason, by the way. So a little bit frightening. The Dixon Cherry swing will probably be used at some point. So we'll have to hold that on for the time being. But if I'm not going to Gawn, like, I have no idea. What else do I go? Like, what else do I go to? Like, do I go Wits? It feels a bit weird because everyone got Wits for 350 if you had him. So I'm going to Oliver. That's my plan with Grundy. It's obviously a must trade. What would you be doing, JD, if you had Brodie Grundy this week? Like, who would you be trading to?
Well, firstly, I'd be training my mind to see the good in every situation. And I think Grundy going down is actually a great situation for holders. Firstly, as you pointed out already, he powered through that fourth quarter, put a good parting score on the scoreboard. So you got to be thankful for that. I mean, Grundy copping a lot of hate this year, but outside of one bad score, he's been phenomenal. All right. So we're praising Grundy, first of all. Then secondly, it does give you the option to fix your team so you can get the single best cash rookie this week in Hayes. If you don't have Hayes, you've now got your path to get Hayes. So there is a very easy way to turn a negative situation into a positive one and upgrade your team elsewhere. So I think it's a good thing for most teams and most coaches, if I'm being honest. If you've got Grundy and he's gone down, I think
it is not a good thing. I am low trades. I have to trade out another premium now. This is not good. This is not a blessing.
I agree to disagree.
Look, I understand. Look, I'm in a different. It depends. Everyone's ruck line's like completely different. It's hard to find some people with the same one. But if you already have another premier ruck, like if you're Gaundy and you weren't going to get Hayes, I can see why. Yeah, it is kind of a positive now that you get the Hayes cash gen, as JD said, and Bruce's. If you go on to the Bruce, Hayes, and then like Dixon and that's, I get what George is saying. That's what he's got to do, and that is just super, super sketch. It could be for like a month. Yeah. Could be for a month. And do you think Bruce is going to last a month?
This is to my buys. This I'll be having.
Well, what's the
Cherry.
buys? Yeah, about 5, 6.
So I need to fill two, like even if Dixon comes back, but like Cherry, Dixon, Cherry, Bruce, and Hayes. I'll need to fill them as much as I can, and like until it blows up, basically. So yeah, I mean, like I guess it's. If you have, you guys have Wits and Darcy. I don't have Gawn anymore. Yeah. So it's like, I think, I know Gawn's going to have a really big week, and you could definitely go to Gawn, but I feel like it's an opportunity to grab a mid, because I think Bruce and Hayes are probably better than what you're fielding at F6 and M8, most likely. So I would be going with the Bruce Hayes ruck line. If you have Gawn Grundy, for example, go all the way down to Hayes, go all the way up to take your pick. Probably Oliver, Jack Steele, whoever you want. So that's what I would be doing. Hopefully, definitely don't trade Cherry for the next few weeks as long as he keeps playing. And I think that's where we go from there. So any objections?
No, I just checked. It's 5 weeks for Bruce. It is until his bye. So because he's got the first one, I believe. So if he can get to there and be around 450, 500, it'd be nice. But
okay,
yeah, I guess
you're gonna have to pray.
The only question would be: so some people decided not to get in Bruce last week and just get in Hayes. Say they were running Gorn, Grundy, and they only had room for one. They decided to get the cheaper one rather than the more expensive one. So it won't be many people, but there's definitely some out there. In that situation, would you be comfortable getting Bruce in this week?
Yes.
I think so, yeah. Yep. Cool. Hurts that you went that way and now you have to go the other way because you think you lost about 100K, but I still think you do it.
I mean, a good example of this would be George, who brought in Brody at 350K and Sicily at 500K last week. So these were mid prices you could have got cheaper, but rather than being stubborn, he opened his mind to the possibility that they were keepers and went and got them still at a very good value price, and they've worked out. And it feels like Bruce is similar vein. He's probably not going to be a keeper, but he could still easily make another 200K, and he's good points on the field from here.
Yeah, it does. Like in the back of your mind, it's like everyone got him cheaper. Like, am I actually achieving anything here? But at the end of the day, I think it's still the best play. You know, his break even's still negative. He's going to score points on field like a lot better than rookies. So I think it's worth it. And like Bruce's durability risk, I think is worth it. As much as I hate it, but it's just too many points, too much money to be made, and just has to take the field basically, and he'll make 50K. So I am.
He just got a week off as well.
That probably did him more good than harm, to be honest. But yeah. So I think we can move on to strategies to close the gap on the rest of the competition. So do we go safe here? You know, do we go standard, play just with your rookies, get your slightly discounted premiums in? So maybe in defense, we'll discuss which ones to go for. Like maybe someone like around the 520K range. Do we go like for the mids, like the 600s rather than you pay up? Or do you go one Connor Rosie, for example, stuff like that? Do you try and go for a massive value pick, or are we going to keep playing the get your proven primos in that are maybe slightly discounted? What's your approach going forward, for upgrading?
Look, you don't want to be actively looking for these picks, but like we said before the podcast started, we were just like, are we going to play conservatively and go from 30K to 15K and just, wipe the hands off and go, well done, boys? Or are we going to actually try and get a respectable rank? Because it's going to be hard to climb. Right? We're already probably 500-600 points behind of where you really want to be as far as top couple of thousand, and just, trading in everyone that all the coaches are going to get. They're going to be highly owned and all that isn't going to really get you anywhere. But you don't on the other side just look for crazy value picks and think that these can get me, these can skyrocket me back up. It's got to be calculated enough. And I guess we'll talk about Rosie later. But I'm still going to play the way I've played Supercoach for like 5-6 years. Not going to go too crazy with it, but I don't know, man. Like we're always so far behind. So at the end of the day, I don't care if my rank says 30 or 20. It doesn't really make a difference. It's still bad. What do you think, JD?
Well, for me, a quote comes to mind, which is the moment where you doubt you can fly, you cease ever being able to do it. And so the question I have to ask you two is, do you believe you can fly?
Stop this now, please.
What are you on about?
Just like my friend MJ,
no,
you got to take the shot. If you want to win, you got to believe you can have the ball in your hands and take the shot. So it sounds like Enno's playing safe. He's tapped out. Whatever. I'm happy to be Steve Kerr on the bench. Whatever. What's sixth man of the year? George, you taking
mate.
the shot this
one
week?
Of the biggest shots. Steve Kerr.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good.
I'm going with the pack.
Bad example.
I'm going with the pack. Everyone else going Clayton Oliver. Go with Oliver. Hopefully get a decent on-field setup. And I think still got to be sorry to act like JD here, but try and, I don't know if be grateful is the right word, but use what you've got and hopefully it comes good. For example, Lipinski for me, I kind of need that to come good, even though it's not. Like Petrarca had a down week, hopefully he comes good. So, keep fielding O'Driscoll for me, stuff like that. So, just got to try and stay on track as best as we can. I don't want to do anything too outlandish. Like we'll speak about Rosie, like Dawson scoring well. Like these are too speculative for me, but they could work. So I'll just play the standard way. And for example, I went for Sicily. I think Sicily was probably the best trade I could have done this week. We'll see how it goes long term, but 500k for a defensive keeper. It's getting quite tough to pay up for your Dohertys and Sinclairs and whatnot. So, try and see with hopefully what I've got does well, and I can keep just trading in probably safe-ish premiums. So see how we go. So
just before we move on, just quickly, I think people get caught up too much in pods and point of difference. It's always floated around. Like your whole team is a collective pod. The 22 players or you field across the lines is a pod in itself. No one has the exact same team that you do. Maybe 10 other coaches do, but especially this season, like there's a lot of different primos flying around defense, and I guess a forward line's pretty standard. But the whole team is a pod in itself. They all need to fire pretty much. Don't just think one pick can just skyrocket. It's yourself straight up. So anyway.
No, boys, I do like what I'm hearing, because if you've got a plan, the roadmap and the courage to press on,
I'm going to mute
any destination. And for me, I think it is, the plan, the roadmap is the same one we've always had, which is let's upgrade, get to those super premium teams, and hope that can kind of bring us forward. It always has moved us up ranks in the past. I guess the question is, what is the top position we can kind of end up with starting this far back? And we'll only kind of find that out as the season goes on. The big opportunities, I think, to kind of catch up is you're going to get people that were playing risky ahead of us that will continue to play risky to try and, say, win. And you're going to get some people you pass through that. And then secondly, buy planning needs to start coming into consideration a little bit. It's a great place to make up positions, and there's potentially a lot of work can be done through there. I think just continuing to do the one up, one down kind of tried and true method, get the most out of your picks and your trades each week, and hopefully you can still end with a pretty good position from here.
Yep. So just want to quickly add, I think there's 3 things you can do. As you said, the buy rounds, planning for it. Probably not having any more than 8, maybe 7 in the same buy round. Holding guys like Dacos through the buys. Having a good finishing team. So maybe if you've saved trades, you might finish your team a little bit later, but you got to remember, like rounds 15 to 23, you might have a better team than other people, and probably fixing D6. I think a lot of people running O'Driscoll, who's still okay, McCartan, Hinge at this position. You can quite easily get 40 points plus a week in this position with a good defender upgrade. So I think something like that. I think we can move on though. So moving on to the defense line. Now, is it too early to move on Dacos? In one word. Me? Yes. Enno?
Yeah, for me it is, yep.
In one word, I'll say yes.
Okay. It is too early. I think we got asked this question in the Discord. So a few people, they're trying to get to Jack Steele. They're trying to get to Oliver or whoever they want to get to. For me, he's going to be useful through the buys, and I know his break-even is 80, but he's still scoring pretty well. He only scored like a 120 a few weeks ago, I think. It might have been AFL Fantasy 120. I can't remember.
It was Supercoach as well. 125.
Okay, yep, okay. So I definitely hold. I just think I looked at I said in my video this week, I look at my seven rookies that scored below 45. And Dacos had his worst game for 70. I need to get rid of these other guys before Dacos. And Dacos, yes, he might drop a little bit in cash, but I think he'll hover around the same price or possibly even go up more. So I don't think it's worth discussing much more unless you guys want to add anything.
So I guess the thing is, right, people are trying to get Oliver. And so is Oliver a big enough of a must get this week that you would trade out Dacos if that was your only option? Would be my question 1. And then secondly, the other options people might have around a similar price are going to be Berry and Cherry. Would you trade out both of those ahead of Dacos?
Yep. I could see the reason because Cherry has 30 break even or something, so he can make quite a bit this week. But
I wouldn't be trading. Yeah, I wouldn't be trading Cherry. Berry, I guess you guys. I think you guys have Berry, or you've traded him. People might still be nervous about his shoulder. I don't think he's got much more money in him. He could have a spike game. It could happen, but
probably will once he's gone. But
yeah, so I think you could hold, but I think Berry can.
If you got him, he goes. The question probably is harder, Cherry or Dacos. But I'd still say Cherry, I think.
Yep. So
yeah, JD, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm trading Berry over Dacos just because Dacos in the defense is really useful through that bye period. He's also got the last bye like Dacos, so you could hold him right through to the end. But just that Dacos at D6 is going to be better than Berry at M8.
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll speak on some defender upgrades. So for me, I need a defender next week, and I need your help. I know JD will put a positive spin on it and give great points on all of them. So if you guys are looking for, I know you have 5 defenders, correct?
Got him.
And 5 JD, you have 4?
I've got 5. Sorry.
Yes,
I am optimistically including Whitfield as one of my keepers. Yes.
Okay, so say you have 4, like me, and you need to get a defender next week. Would you be happy to pay up for like a Doherty or Sinclair, or would you rather go for a 500k player? What do you think, Anna?
Well, we got to go through the options, don't we? Who is around 500k?
Okay, let's talk about them.
Yeah.
Let's start with Jake Lloyd.
Oh,
do you see a premium this year?
He's not. Look, he's not top 6. I don't think so, from what I've seen so far. But get on the other side, there's some guys averaging 115, 120 that I also think is unsustainable, which will come back down. But yeah, with the current landscape, no, I don't think he is. But he can average still good enough numbers to get you through the season. 95, 100, which is I think what I said. I think he'd average a few weeks ago. So. JD, I'm not sure your thoughts, but he just hasn't looked as... He needs to get 30 touches, man, to go like 105, and he's just not getting them.
Yeah, so Lloyd this week, I think, is tricky. He's still got a reasonably high break-even, and he plays a good Lions team, which is pretty good at preventing point scoring. But there is some upside in that while he has scored poorly in 2 of the last 3 games, he's taken 2, 2, and 6 kickouts across those 3 games. And that's because in those games, the Swans only had 3, 4, and 8 points scored against them, which would be lower than average of what you would expect. So maybe the game just gone where he had 6 kick-ins is probably more around what you'd expect, maybe 7 or 8. So it feels like his scores have been a victim a little bit of just the Swans being good, which I don't know, because they had North, West Coast, and Hawks, right, the last 3. So I think there's potentially more upside. It just feels like an awkwardly priced pick, given that he's break-even still 122, and we haven't seen any consistent form out of him. I don't hate it just because he's durable, and obviously he's got premium scoring in the past. But to Enno's point, there's probably easily 6 defenders you could list ahead of him in terms of scoring for the year.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to come down more. I don't think there's any reason to bring him in this week. I think he's a watch because he could get to like 480k and then you can probably go 95 from there. So I think that's okay. But I guess there are much better defenders out there, it seems. I'll get back to Lloyd in a second, but I think we'll move on. Jordan Dawson. So you guys own Jordan Dawson. I watch the Crows every week. Don't really know. I feel like he goes missing a lot, and then he's on 100. And the game's finished. Would you recommend Jordan Dawson, JD?
As much as I love having Dawson and watching him, especially with the game winners and whatnot, it feels hard for him to be a strong recommend as a buy at the moment. So he's averaging a tick under 100, despite being pretty consistent on his scoring. It's just that his role has changed almost every week, and that's the same reason I don't love picks like Houston and Sinclair normally, because when you're moving roles and you're really useful for your team so they can kind of chuck you into different spots and use you in different ways, it's just hard to get consistently good efforts in games, which then leads to consistently good efforts in Supercoach scoring. So I like him as a player. I still think there's a potential he goes, 110, 115 for the rest of the year if they settle him in a spot, and I just don't know when that will happen.
What do you think?
Not much more to add, really. I mean, it's only been 6 rounds, and people he's 20 points behind Crisp. I was looking total points, and everyone's thinking Crisp is the greatest pick in the world. So that, yes, the role thing really hurts, just because it's not consistent. But he's shown he can score in both of them. It's just that I think the defense role, just the Crows have been, 2 great wins the last 2 weeks, and he just hasn't been as involved in things that will score more points. Like, the cheap stuff in the back line doesn't score as well as score involvements, inside 50 kicks for scores, that sort of stuff, which I'd prefer him to be in. So like JD said, probably not recommend right now, but I think the big one I was talking to you boys before is Hinge. Like, him going out of the team, putting Dawson back, it's just sort of, capped him a bit. But if they get Hinge back or decide to bring him back and he gets back to a wing role, then I would definitely endorse him more. So
yeah,
see what happens. But weird. What's your like? Didn't he come to play midfield? Like, that ain't happening.
He got a few inside mid stints, and he couldn't really get his hands on it. So they kind of, like, he was struggling early, probably because he was a tad underdone. They threw him behind the ball, and bang, he just started getting involved. So yeah, been behind the ball a bit more the last few weeks. I think Billy Frampton took all his marks down back and whatnot. So I think he's okay. I'd like to see him move on a wing, and we don't know when that's going to happen because for some reason Hinge didn't come in, which was a little surprising. So maybe if Hinge comes in, Dawson goes on a wing, they feed him the ball a bit more. A bit like Whitfield. Like, you can see when Whitfield's playing up the ground, he's just involved so much more. So
score assist, you love that rather than the sideways kick to another half back. That just doesn't score as well.
Yeah. So I think I want to see Hinge come back, but I don't mind. I think you can do a lot worse than such a talented player like Dawson. Any interest in Bailey Dale? Bailey Dale was quite good in the preseason. I think he's about 520k, averaging the 105, 103, something like that. I think he's been good this year. I think Daniel's probably regressed a little bit. Maybe he's just out of form. I think Dale's numbers have increased a little bit. I think he's gone from 26 touches to 28, a bit more meters gained. Just, slight uptick in possessions. I think his fantasy scoring is gone up by 10. It went from 81 to 91, and he's still getting almost all of those kick-ins. I actually don't mind Dale, and he's actually one of the few guys I go through all the players, and like, his durability is, I don't remember an injury for him. So any interest in Bailey Dale? Okay, can I just ask before that, are you guys trying to target as your last defender? Are you guys looking for like a Doherty, or are you guys looking for like whoever's good at the price? Like, are you guys set on a top guy?
So I think with Dacos being the option that we want to plug in for D6, I'm speaking collectively. I don't know what Enno's thinking, but to me, it just seems like that's the spot I take care of during the buys. Like, I'll trade in someone that's coming out of their buy before Dacos has his. And that'll help me get some points, and I'll probably just find a combination of like value and good score at that point. So ideally it would be a Stewart or a Doherty, for example, but it could also realistically be a Hall if he's at a very cheap price during that point. He's one of my last upgrades. It could be someone like a Dale if he has a bad game, or a Lloyd if he's starting to turn the corner there. So it could be a lot of these options. I think it'll just be something that this is the problem with going 5 defenders early, because even though Sicily was good value last week, I couldn't bring myself to bring in a 6th defender. Your hands are quite tired. So I think, I'll just wait until the buys and then pick up the combination of like value and best scoring at that point.
Okay.
Yep. I don't need to add any more. I agree. We've got Dacos D6 and 5 defenders. It's just, I'm not touching that line until later on. But like you said, Doherty, Sinclair, whoever's looking good at the time and affordable. So,
okay. Well, just on Dale, I actually quite like Dale as an option. I think they said he's improved in the preseason. He's at a decent price. Would I prefer Doherty? Yes, just price and stuff like that. So, any interest in Daniel Rich? Oh,
Sorry, just one other thing on Dale. Like, I wonder how much of his improvement has kind of come from from the Bulldogs not starting as well this year. So they've lost much more games than we probably would have predicted at this point. So you've got more ball down back. I wonder if they turn the corner a bit if you start to see Dale's scoring come back a little bit in those wins, especially, they've got Essendon and Port the next two. You'd probably expect pretty dominant wins, and maybe that hurts his scoring a little bit. I know he did all right against North, scoring 95, but yeah, that's the only worry I have there, that in some of these blowout wins that you'd normally predict for the Dogs, maybe his scoring drops off a little bit.
Dogs are struggling a bit. Maybe they turn it around. Any interest in Daniel Rich, who's coming down in price? He's averaging somewhere in the 90s this year. I think 98, 95, something like that. Was a 105 odd last year. Any interest in Daniel Rich, Anno?
Well, we're doing this to help you pick one, and I know you're not picking Daniel Rich, so I think we don't need to speak too much on him. Just getting a bit on in age, has a little bit of injury history. I don't know. I don't like the pick. I just don't. Doesn't sit too well with me. It's been okay though.
I mean, 105 was a career year, and he hadn't got close to it any other year. So regression is kind of what you'd predict, and that's what we've seen this year. Still taking bulk kick-ins, but with Zorko back and now Coleman coming into the side, it's hard to see him having enough other avenues for him to score consistently. I don't think he's played badly or anything. He's looked good from the games I've seen for the most part. It's just that the role isn't as good as what it was last year. So that's a pretty easy avoid, especially in an older player where the injury risk is elevated.
Yep. And last one, people were asking about Nick Vlosten. Played 2 games, averaging, I want to say 120 something. The Tigers defenders are scoring a lot of points back there. Nathan Broad's averaging 100. What is going on back there, Eno?
There's a lot of ball back there, mate. I think that's a simple fact. We seem to be sharing. I guess moving the ball downfield is not easy for us anymore as it was. I mean, we never were a pick you apart team. We were more just get it on the boot, get it down the line, or handball our way down the field. And I think now we're just trying to kick our way down the field, which hasn't really been a strength. But in turn, that just means all these defenders are racking it up. But Boston does do more than that. He probably took 8 intercept marks on the weekend and probably prevented us from losing by 80 points instead of whatever it was. So he does have more aspect to his game rather than just getting cheap ball. So there is that with him, but you're not going to like him either, George. He's got a pretty average injury history of the last few years as well. So I know you won't picking him, but yeah.
Somebody asked about him, so I thought it was worth touching on. But yeah. Probably
I think that's the biggest one is the injury history, to be honest. It hasn't had a good run last couple of years.
Yeah. I think on the positive side, good age range, so 28 in his prime, and he's also been taking a lot of kick-ins, which may worry short owners a little bit, but he took 3 to shorts 2 in round 5, and then he took 6 to shorts 8 in the week just gone. So there's definitely I don't know how many kick-ins he's taken in other years. I think he's had a bit, but probably
he last year. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so it's just from memory, it's always been favoured a little bit more towards Short and Hawley than it has been Vlostone. So maybe there's that's where some of the upside in his scoring comes from this year. More ball down back, more kick-ins, and playing well in his prime, hopefully without injuries.
We probably shouldn't have even spoken about him because it's just unnecessary risk at this point, I think. Anyway, moving on to the midfielders. All right, so I think we all have. Do we all have 6 midfielders right now?
After trades, I've got 6. Yes.
Oh yes, after this week. Who are we targeting? Which 2 do we want? Straight off the bat. Eno, pick 2. Who do you want?
I want Brayshaw and I want Sam Walsh or Mills, but I'll say Walsh for now. Although the Pitternet news might change my mind because it's not the great, it's not the good thing for the Carl midfield. But yeah, anyway.
So I want Steele and Clary, but on value, I think Clary is the clear one.
You have 6 mids and no Steele or Clary. Is that correct?
So I'm trading in Clary this week. He's my.
But you need
take him out. So Steele and who then?
Now who do you want?
So I've traded in Clary. I want Steele and I've already got Cripps, who would be like another obvious one.
No, who do you want?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There's so many good options in the midfield. I'm just working my way through all of the ones that I want. So Steele and Brayshaw or Walsh, probably. Yeah.
Wrong answer. Ben Keys is what you want.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
I can't really
fair
laugh
enough.
too much.
There's a lot of great options. I agree. I've loved Brayshaw's game this year. For me, I want Jack Steele. I'm going to end up paying 700 after his buy. And I wouldn't mind Ben Keys. I think he's been really good this year. Disposals are up. It just looks better. Played really well against the Dogs. So, I'd like Ben Keys for 590k. So, I think we need to touch on Mr. 200 this week, Callum Mills. Now, I was hard avoid Callum Mills. He's been getting his leg taped up 3 weeks out of 6 this year. Don't think that was a smart idea picking him. Apparently, that was bad advice. It's weird because he's shown this sort of scoring. Like he's been on like 90 on like a first half like last year multiple times. He just hasn't put it all together. And he did this from really low time on ground. Like what was it, 73? I want to say something like that.
Yeah.
Are you still like you said you wanted potentially Mills? You know, are you still happy to go for Callum Mills? I mean, he's going to be 700k in 2 weeks. I think so.
It don't matter anymore.
Gone.
Maybe at the buys, but he's gone for now.
Yeah.
I owned him last year, as you know, and it was a joy to watch. He just does everything well. Again, we're speaking before the podcast, just multiple avenues to score. Gets contested ball and then gets involved in all the chains. Like he finds the pockets of space very well. Took 11 marks, most on the team. So he's always involved. He's brilliant to watch. He was unbelievable on the weekend, but he is gone. So good if you have him, and goodbye, Callum. I might see you at the buys, but probably not. But the injury is still a worry. It still has to be because it's like every week something's up with him. So got to monitor that. But I don't think we can get him. He's gone. He's 6. I mean, he's 630. You can, but if you have Clary already or something. But I guess we should ask that question. Would he be your number one title? If you already had Clary, you started him, and you wanted him to trade in this week, would he be the number one?
No,
no.
I'd be advising Cripps over him if you didn't have Cripps.
Okay,
Still.
I think a lot of people do though. But like out of the low-owned ones that people, like him or Brayshaw or
So I mean, Brayshaw's 40k cheaper. Keys is 40k cheaper. I think those are probably ones I'd be looking at. Steele's 20k more. I'd probably prefer Steele. So I think there's probably enough other options that people don't have that
don't have risk.
I mean, even Petrarca, who was a bit of a failed trade-in this week, he's 80k cheaper. Is Mills going to outscore Petrarca so much more that the 80k is worth it?
Probably. Now that we brought it in. It's I feel like at that price you might as well go for Clary or Steele if you don't have them, and then if not, I guess you could go for Mills, but I don't feel comfortable with his leg injury.
Yeah. Okay.
So now we'll speak on 2 other premiums that people are a little concerned on at the moment. So one is Tuke Miller. It's been a very poor starting pick, unfortunately, and we started Tuke Miller over. Okay, I don't want to say Steele, but Clayton Oliver and say Steele, for example. So a lot of people, we picked those. We ended up with, I traded Steele in round 1 for Cripps, but never mind that. Took over Clary and Steele. It just hasn't worked. It's cost a lot of points. And now we're bringing in the other 2 at an elevated price while everyone else can get Tuke cheaper. I'm not sure if I would bring Tuke in just because I think he looked okay. I think I'd be okay bringing him in. Just seems a little off at the moment. His first quarter was just a mess. Gave away a few frees, but he's finished the game really strong. I thought his off the ball running was really, really good still. at the contest, he's not really as explosive as he has been. And Gold Coast are not taking as many marks. I think we were looking at the stats. So Gold Coast's marks from 2021 to 2022, I think are down around 20%. He can take a lot of marks from the ground. That's sort of not in the game style as much this year. Maybe that's affecting Rao. Not helping Rao anyway. Would you feel comfortable bringing in Tuke Miller, Eno?
I actually would. I just think he hasn't been at his absolute best as it was last year, but he's back to tackling this week. When you give away 3 free kicks in the first 2 minutes, we all know it's just really hard to crawl it back. And he did crawl it back really well, and probably essentially scored 110 if you take, the minus points off. And if that didn't happen, then Scaling would probably have him closer towards like a 120 score. So the way he actually played after those free kicks was good enough for me on the eye. The 7 clangers, and I think his disposal efficiency is just down a bit. I haven't even checked, but it's always 50, 60 this year I'm looking, and it just isn't as good as last year if I can recall. But the last thing I'll say on him, it is interesting that, I'll do that Hall of Fame analysis. At the start of the year, he was like 50, 60% owned amongst those coaches, which are like, the coaches have done well over the past few years. Yet he only went into the season with like 15, 20% ownership. So that really has hurt a lot of coaches, and the smart ones that went with him. So he's definitely been, he's gone 110. It's not like it's absolute disaster, but there's 8 mids going 120, and he's just not one of them. So, but long way of answering. Yeah, I actually would be okay bringing him in. Maybe you want one good performance before you do. What's his break even? It's still pretty high. Like it's 130-ish from the top of my head. So it's like,
you can wait if you want.
You can wait. Exactly. What do you think, JD?
Tough times don't last. Tough people do. And Took is tough. So I think he'll be a top 8 option from the end of the year to here. To George's point, it has been a little bit unfortunate. He went 137 and 140 in his first 2. So 2 weeks in, you're like, amazing. He was like one of the top mids. And then unfortunately got tagged and then has struggled to regain form. We had the 2 weeks of that tackling. So George, I think you're mentioning beforehand that maybe he's carrying an injury, and that could be the case. And maybe that would be the hesitation to not bring him in. But I do think we saw a pretty good game against a tough Lion side in the week just gone. Not that his fixture's particularly easy or anything like that, but I feel like it could be one of those games where he turns the corner and could even make his break even this week.
Yeah. By the way, there's no basis for him like potentially being injured. The only thing I was saying is like I'm trying to get an explanation of why he's not scoring as well or not playing as well. Like, could it be injury? I have no idea. There's been no reports of it. There's no reason to think that it should be. It's just a bit odd that he hasn't looked anywhere near what he was towards the end of last year. So I still feel okay bringing him in. Honestly, the last quarter was really, really good from him. He was working really, really hard. He still works hard off the ball. Last quarter was very encouraging, though. I wanted to see that because first quarter, just like, and again, as you said, the disposal efficiency is just not great this year either.
I haven't checked, but it just feels like it's always in the 60s.
Yeah, it feels
every time I'm looking. So
anyway, the final mid, Tom Mitchell, started really well this week and kind of faded out a little bit. For me, I feel uncomfortable because of his coach. I don't think they want him scoring 130 or getting 35 touches a week. CBAs have gone up a little bit. I think he's just a pass. I think it's a pick that can work. I just think there are decent substitutes for him that don't have a risk of roll. So, do we agree on that?
Yep.
It's one that could
better options.
Yeah, it's one that could work, but again, it feels like there's risk when you don't need to take some risk with others.
Yep.
So moving on to the forward line now. The forward line was a bit of a dumpster truck this week. Kind of a rough week. A lot of the new forwards did well, like Libber and Parker, but Heaney was down, Tagoe was down, Taranto was down. Dunkley is now F1 again, I think. Actually, might be English still, not sure, but Dunkley should be F1. Yeah.
I think Isaac Just actually still.
we take that. So who what do we think about the forward line? Because I think a lot of people have, maybe a Cherry or Nick Martin at F6, so it's not necessarily time to bring in a forward. The big one is Luke Parker. So you look at Luke Parker's durability record, it is pretty immense, and he's gone probably 100 plus, maybe 10 years straight nearly. I think there might be a high 90s in there somewhere. The CBAs are up again the last 2 weeks. What was it, like 27, 29 disposals this week for 470k. I love the Luke Parker pick. I know he had a few down games, but I think there will be big games. There will be poor games. At 470k for Parker, I find it hard to believe he won't be near the top 6. So because of the price, I think he's a great get this week. Up and as I said, could be up and down. I would bring him in if I didn't put such a priority on Clayton Oliver this week. Have you considered, JD, looking at Luke Parker?
So I have been looking into him a little bit more just because a few people have kept mentioning him. And I think the difficulty is reconciling how he scored so poorly, even though he had games with quite large CBAs. So that round 4 score, which was his lowest, I mean, he did have his lowest CBAs there, but it was still 38%. The week before he had a 76 with 82% CBAs. I'm just a little bit unsure as to why he's been so up and down. I think the positive sign, obviously, is that trended back up in CBAs this week with the 75% and scored well the last 2 weeks. His break even is 53. And so the thing I wonder is waiting another week just to get that extra sample size a bad thing? So in Supercoach Gold, they have him projected for an 82, which would put him up 13k. I'm guessing if he goes 100 again, it's probably more like 25, 26k, and he kind of ends up around 500k. Would you be willing to pay 25k for an extra week's data on Luke Parker, or especially given that a lot of us want to get in Oliver this week?
I see the appeal. The explanation for, I mean, I don't even see this game, but talking to others, what happened was Buddy got injured in the third quarter with that finger injury, and Parker spent the whole second half at full forward pretty much. So yeah, I think I haven't exactly looked at touches by quarter, but he ended on 18 touches, and I think he didn't, he barely got any touches in the second half. So that explains that poor score. But in general with Luke Parker, just knowing him over the years, I think I owned him like 5 years ago, and when he was a top 8 mid, averaging only like 110, which is all you needed to back then. But it's just going to be 150s and 80s and stuff. Like, he's just so inconsistent with his scoring, but it should end up around 100-ish at the end of the season. So if you get him, you're going to have to expect that and know that he does butcher it quite a bit. He does just hack kick it a lot, but he is good on the inside the contest. But I am still nervous just week to week what his role will be. They clearly want to play more kids in there. Can that change in the future? They get more forward injuries. Is he a forward option? I don't know. There is a few risks with him, but I do get the appeal.
They've still got Papley to come back.
Correct.
Which should help, right?
That should help, yeah.
I can see him being used in both, but I think it's not like Heaney, where like Heaney's just too good of a forward where they just play him there. We'll see what happens when Papley gets back, but I think they do need Parker in the midfield. They need his grunt work to help Mills out. So I suppose they have like Warner can kind of do that as well, but I can't see them playing like Parker the rest of the year like under 40% CBAs. I just don't see it happening. I think he can get at least 50% for the rest of the year, and I still think that can get him somewhere in the 90s with a bit of upside. So I'd be more than happy to take Luke Parker at his price. I think he's a great get. So I think we can move on to, Tim Taranto. For me, do you have anything positive to say on Leon Cameron, JD?
Leon Cameron. Yes, I do. Sometimes when things are falling apart, they may actually be falling into place. And that is what I see with the GWS team at the moment. Sometimes things have to fall apart for everything to come together. And maybe that comes together without Leon Cameron in the mix. I don't know. I can't tell you that for sure. But that's kind of what I foresee coming with GWS at the moment. So, yeah, I think that's pretty positive.
With the Taranto, his CBAs are just like, it doesn't seem sustainable for him to keep scoring so well with lowish CBAs. So I think they were 7 and 9 the past 2 weeks, something like that. I don't feel comfortable bringing him in, especially remembering his back into 2020. If you asked me 2 weeks ago, I probably would have said okay, but Leon Cameron makes me nervous, and they did say they want to use him more forward in the preseason, and we're kind of seeing that recently. So I'll hold off on Taranto. Maybe we'll look at him post-bye. I still think he's good enough to go 90 plus, and generally in Supercoach he should go high 90s, maybe low hundreds. So I think he's okay option. I'd probably rather Parker, to be honest, but he's actually had good disposal the past few weeks, I think, and he didn't score well last week, so on round 6. So are you looking at bringing in Taranto at any point, Anna?
At any point, yeah, I'll keep him in mind. I just not right now. They're still giving mid-time to like Tanner Bruin. We know Cogs hasn't had any mid-time recently. That could change. So, don't know. We all said, wait till Toby Green comes back and see what happens. But it ain't happened on Friday, so we need to wait. And like I said at the start of the year, I wasn't going to be surprised if he held his price with the forward role because he can play well there. But the poor games will come, and they didn't come for about 5 weeks, but one did come on the weekend. So they are definitely possible. So, I want to wait. We need probably mid-time to really want to be into the pick, I would say.
Yeah, I think the hard part to predict was how much they've used Tanner Bruin and then Ward getting a lot of leading days. So 2 kind of players we didn't really expect them to be putting ahead of Taranto, prioritizing ahead of Taranto. Maybe being a little bit of a victim of his own success over the first 5 or 6 weeks, that it's like, hey, actually we can keep playing him in this role and it's going to work out better for the team, rather than him performing really poorly and then going like, oh, it has to be in the midfield or it's bust. For mine, Taranto sits in a little bit of the same bucket as Jack Steele, which is they're currently priced quite high. I'm hoping that after their first buy, which is where they both have, that they could be upgrade options to me, maybe to finish out those lines.
Jack's still cheap as hell. He's $650K.
No, he's not cheap at the moment. So I'm saying they're both not cheap at the moment. They're both priced highly. So I'm wait. I can't buy them now. I've got to wait until my buys and hope they get cheap.
Yeah. I mean, George is saying, that is cheap.
You're saying 650 is cheap?
Yeah. George is
saying
that's
40K discount on the starting pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's still too dear for me. What can I say?
You're broke.
Yeah.
But just quickly on that, I think we can move to just speaking about Degoe quickly before we get to that. But after that, I think we'll just touch on is it like, should we be waiting for players in their buy rounds like Steele, Walsh and stuff like that? But just quickly, Degoe, JD, you owned him. I thought he was quite good. Faded out the game a little bit. Completely butchered the ball early game, so I think he's fine. Just bad butcher game, but I'd probably take. Would you take Parker over Degoe, or are you happy with Degoe?
I think it's really tough because I like them both so much, and I actually think I could see myself bringing in Parker next week. I still like Degoe just because of the CBA attendance still leading the midfield, and there were lots of positive parts about that game. I think the part that concerns me about bringing in Degoe this week is he's got a slightly higher break even than Parker, if that weighs into things. But also, what happens to that Grundy now? How do they shake things up? How does it affect their midfield? There's, I think it was mentioned beforehand, there's actually a lot of our premiums that are now going to be affected by missing Grundy, English, and Pitney. So like Hewitt, Cripps, Crisp, Degoe, and then all the dogs. And I wonder if Collingwood's the one that's probably worse affected of the lot, just by missing their ruck, because he is more influential tap ruckman than the other two. I guess I still don't mind Degoe just because of the CBAs, like that supports that good scores should come. And I thought, I mean, his DT was much higher than his Supercoach. I think it could have easily been a 100 plus game if kind of things fell into place. But yeah, maybe for this week, Parker would be the better option. And then Degoe is someone you look at next week to see how Collingwood fares without a dominant ruck, especially in a week where they're coming up against Wits. So they're going to get dominated quite badly there, you'd imagine. So seeing how the midfield goes.
Wits gets another Mickey Mouse matchup. Oh my God.
Not know that.
This is the joke, this pick.
Pick of the year, mate. Pick of the year.
As they say, do good and good will come to you, George.
That's
you
a
must
good
have
point.
a fucking page of quotes up, I swear to God.
Anyway, okay, just quickly, Parker
picking?
or DeGoey?
I'm actually the Goey train, surprisingly enough. You're not? Yeah, you hate him, I know.
I like Parker.
Yeah. I like both, but no, to be honest with both, if I was trading in right this second, I'm more confident in DeGoey than Parker right now. But I can see Parker being the better pick for the rest of the season. Put it that way.
Yeah, I think DeGoey's role is safer, but he's got the worst injury history, and Parker's probably got the runs on the board in terms of scoring history as well.
Better team, and the ruckman thing as well shifts it towards Parker too.
Yep.
Tough.
Next one we have is Heaney. I think you can definitely grab Heaney if you want. I think there's a few cheaper options if you want to save a bit of money, which I think are fine. I'd probably go that route, to be honest.
What are he coming down now? Quickly, Heaney. What's his break even?
120.
Yeah. Okay.
Still a great pick though, but there's a few value options available. Tom Liberatore played inside mid. When they're in trouble, they put Libba in the mids, and it generally pays off. He's still their best stoppage player. I don't think I'll bring in Libba, but I think I have nothing against it if you want to bring him in.
It's just the interesting thing with Libba is this is the first week he's led their midfield for CBAs, and we saw Baz and McRae and Dunkley all kind of drop in numbers compared to the last few weeks. So I don't know if that's something they persist with. Dogs still have to figure out their midfield, and so I'm a little bit worried about what they do with Libba. But I thought he looked really good in the game just gone.
Yeah, I think
it was the second quarter, right? First quarter wasn't really happening for him, and I think second quarter he got thrown in there. He had like 14 touches and was dominant, and then I think backed it up. Third quarter had 10 as well. So middle two quarters he had 23 touches and turned it on. But yeah, Bevo, who the hell? You don't know what he's going to do quarter to quarter, let alone game to game. So
I think the only other knock on Libba is that he's at 540k or whatever it is. So or 535k. So he's 50, 60k dearer than some of these other options. And I kind of peg his upside at 105, 100 to 105 kind of average, which is very good for a forward score. But is it that much higher than what you see a DeGoey or a Parker scoring? Probably in the ballpark. Cheaper option seems to make a little bit more sense. But the Dogs' run is obviously quite good at the moment. So that's maybe one thing that tips it back towards Libba.
Yeah. And we also have Peter Laddams here. So apparently not Sinclair. Hickey's not that far off. 3 weeks, I think. Something like that.
Yeah,
probably not going to work until he gets back. Now we have some spicy ones. Connor Rosie is now playing midfield. Honestly, watching him play, I'm just thinking, what the hell has he been doing forward for the past few years? I was really impressed with him. I think contested ball numbers were pretty low against Carlton, which is slightly concerning, but still had a lot of touches, 1 clearances. I really liked what he was bringing around the ground. You just saw his speed and acceleration. It's just really good to watch. So Rosie is about 390k, something like that. I am doing this in fantasy for sure. I like what I've seen. I'm not going to send it in Supercoach though. I don't know if this is sustainable or not. Anno, what are your thoughts on Rosie?
I've been really, really impressed. Like you said, I think, what has he not been doing there? But I think the reason was that foot injury. You can nurse through something like that, playing forward, not bulk midfield time. But again, he didn't start the season playing this role. So yeah, second half of the Carlton game, they were down 50 points. Him, Butters, and Willem Drew walked out to the center circle, and that was their go for pretty much the whole second half. Obviously, Boak and whatnot still rolled in there, and Wines wasn't playing, but yeah, he had 15 or 16 touches in that second half. Like you said, the contested ball numbers were low, but he only played a half of midfield time. And then the week just gone, again, it was against West Coast, but he was superb. 31 touches with 15 contested. Played the full game in there, and again looked really good. But it is a very small sample size, a game and a half.
And against
Price
West Coast.
and against West Coast, the Carlton second half performance is good. I mean, they almost won that game off the back of him and Butters. So that's the more impressive half for me. But I don't mind it. One of my mates has the dilemma of Grundy out, of course, so he has to trade him. Still wants to get Clary, and then through I think Horn Francis and someone else, he'll be getting Clary, Sam Hayes, and then I think he has like 420 in the bank and can get Rosie. Like, is that optimal? So you're still getting kind of two primos. You know, you're doing an upgrade, but you're side swapping Grundy to Clary. I can see a lot of people are in that sort of situation where they're not going to have 500 to get someone or high 400s to get someone good. Would you opt for Rosie then? I mean, what's his break even is negative 13. So at worst, he's going to hold price. He's not going to drop. But the run is
he's still going 50k.
Going up 50k.
Yeah.
The issue is, what is it? St Kilda and Geelong, or St Kilda and someone, and then
St Kilda, Dogs, and then North.
Dogs. So the next two are tough, but then you get the North game once his break even sort of resets and that 150 goes. I don't mind it. I like it. If that's all you can sort of get and afford. I mean, everything's working so far. Why the hell can't this?
I'd rather pay 70k for Parker.
Correct.
But I understand your mates in that.
And I can see a lot of people in that because Grundy's obviously not as much as he was. Clary's held up as much as he didn't drop as much as we thought he would. So it's an interesting one. But I think my biggest worry with him is the injury side of it. Yeah, how's the foot tracking? Because that did hamper him quite a lot. You have to imagine this role continues, right, JD? Like they of course it can change, but what's Kenny got? They're 1 and 5. They got to throw him and Butters in the mids, you'd think, when they can. Boak's getting on. He's still playing really well, but he's playing forward the last 2 weeks. It's got to continue, doesn't it?
It's tricky because, once again, by the way, another team that has a poor ruck playing for them, so it might be affecting primos. I mean, obviously not Rosie because he's only had the 2 games and they've both been with Hayes in the midfield. But yeah, their midfield composition's interesting because they had kind of Boak, Drew, and Wines as like the 3 meaty boys in the midfield, and then you've got Butters and Rosie that both offer different X factor, speed, much like how Gresham kind of changes things for St Kilda's midfield. And to my eye, they've looked much better when Butters and Rosie in their respective weeks have been in the midfield. So you'd imagine they're going to persist with that and getting them more in. Can they play both at the stoppage? Is like a question. I don't know. And if they can't, then do they have a preference? Because maybe it's one of those things where when they're both up and firing, they're both getting 45, 50% CBAs, which is all right, but it's not amazing. I mean, he's still going to return points at his price for sure. The only other thing with Rosie is that he does share the buy, that first buy, right, with Cogs and Butters. And so if you've got then all 3 in your forward line, that might be a little bit tricky for some people to navigate. I guess the only other thought is like, so for someone like in your mate situation where it's really like Rosie or below, what are the options below that are reasonable to consider? And I think the only other one that's popped up this week, which George probably won't love, but to win big, you sometimes have to take big risks, like a Rosie or like a Kadeen Coleman, someone that we were weighing up in the preseason as an option. So doing a Coleman instead, you get an extra 130k. You kind of guaranteed extra cash generation than a Rosie might provide, but you're not getting a keeper. So yeah, I think that'd be the only other option for someone in that situation. So like, yeah, I don't know what your thoughts on that are. If you'd look at maybe that mid-price option instead, but to me, it feels like downgrading to mid-prices at this part in the year isn't usually something that works or is productive, and it's probably better to either back in Rosie as a keeper, which I don't hate as a.
Oh, he has to be a keeper at the price.
Yeah, so back him in either as a keeper or yeah, like maybe just look for a rookie and bank the cash for a future upgrade.
It's actually funny you say that. Like the same mate messaged a couple of hours later saying, "You reckon Kitty Coleman is worth it?" Like he actually messaged that. Which, yeah, like you said, it's not a keeper. You get an extra 100K. Maybe that helps you for a midfield upgrade next week. So it's like, you're still gonna have to be trading Kitty Coleman at some point. I think I'd rather take the risk on Rosie. I think.
There's no way, dude. You saw what happened when I traded in Aaron Hall off a preseason hamstring. Don't touch Coleman, please. Don't do it. No way. Anyway, I think we can move
Rosie,
on.
You last opinion, George?
Too risky for Supercoach. Send in fantasy. I think he's looked good. It's just like, can he sustain it?
Yeah, it's really small sample. Yeah.
And against bad teams. I know Carlton's not bad, but that half that he was playing in the midfield, Carlton were bad. They switched off.
Yeah, they got ran over. Yeah.
Anyway, can we give a big up to Billy Frampton, averaging 84 on the forward line, like 320K, something like that. Key position, probably not sustainable.
I'd give him a bigger rap if he wasn't affecting Dawson, but anyway.
So we'll move on to rookies. Now, rookies are actually pretty important this week because I went Ben Hobbs and I kind of had to panic on that one. I just was stuck. Would have been nice to know the timeline on Roses at the time, but here we are. So I think we'll start off with the players that have played 2 games. So Finn Callahan, I know, JD, you're thinking about bringing him in. Is he in your plans this week?
So he was in my plans just because there was no one else. It looked like Hobbs was likely getting dropped or just based on performance on the weekend. And then Roses wasn't going to be back. But those things have changed a little bit. It's tricky because I think I'm going to be fielding bad rookies on field this week, which is pretty frustrating. But yeah, I don't know. I think Callahan was in the plans, but it's just 198K. We've seen with Horn Francis, for example, who's played probably better than what you'd expect out of Callahan, didn't make a ton of money. GWS and rookies don't usually mix well together. So yeah, someone that I was considering just because of lack of other good options. But probably if Roses is playing this week, or even if he's just a test, I don't know. It feels hard to take Callahan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm the same. I was looking at him. The price just really hurts. Going someone cheaper can help me upgrade next week. So we'll shout out the boy from St. Bede's. Never met him in my life because he's like 7 years younger than me, but went to the same high school. So I hope he goes well. He looked really classy from what I saw, like really classy left footer. So hope he goes right.
Yep. Sam Hayes, I think everyone has to get him in.
Especially now the Grundy news. I don't think there's anyone out there that doesn't have a way to him now. Like there was Grundy Wits owners going, who the hell do I trade out or just do I skip him? Now the obvious is there. I guess if you're a Gorney Wits,
yes, that's
you just
tough.
Ride that train, I guess. And
yeah, I don't think you trade that. I think you got the. Now that Grundy's gone, I think
R1, R2, and I assume you have Bruce. So well done.
I think you kind of have to skip, unfortunately. Roses might come back this week. Don't think you have to grab him, and this is going to hurt a few people at F6 for people that have Durden Dixon. I can actually throw Dixon in the ruck line thanks to Grundy. So, if Roses plays, I think 2 120 odds in the VFL, 270s in the AFL. Like, I don't really want to pass on a base rookie that can do this. So, doesn't have to do 250s and makes 100K, something like that. So, I'm bringing him in. Are we on board?
With how dire it looks, I think we almost have to wait till teams, of course. But with how dire the cash gen looks, I think it's really hard to pass up. It's just going to hurt that F6. Hopefully, Durden plays. We might all have to field him against North because it's a good matchup. But
it makes me nervous. I think he could be playing VFL.
Or Dixon hopefully gets up against the Titans.
Yeah. I mean, what Dempsey scored 65 against North on debut. So if he could do that, you'd imagine Durden surely due for a 60 this week, right?
He's due for a good one. Yeah, hopefully. I think that's the ones that have on the bubble. So I'll bring in Hayes and Roses this week. If Roses plays, if not, I'll probably go early on Greg Clark, who we'll get to in a second.
So sorry, let's just rate because there's 4, right? So Hayes, clear number 1. We're saying Roses 2. Would you have Hobbs or Callahan at 3?
I'd probably avoid both.
Yeah, mega avoid.
I think Hobbs because
I'd say
of
Callahan.
price. I say Hobbs because of price, because if you're fielding someone, probably Callahan. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's just so hard to come up with like 50K.
50K, yeah.
It's a lot.
I'm just saying Callahan because I
45.
don't know. Is Hobbs staying in the team, JD? I don't know.
Yeah, question marks. I didn't think he was one of
It's
our
not the right
worst
role
by
for
any
him. If
means.
he's
It's
in a
just
team,
a bad role. Yeah.
he's got to be in the guts, which he just can't be. So
Yep. Yeah, I think if Parrish had have actually injured his ankle for a longer period of time, then it would make sense probably to have Hobbs maybe even above a Roses. But yeah, I think
nope.
Yeah, it's hard. And like it's just, I mean, GWS have a good matchup this week for Callahan. It's just hard to trust what GWS is going to do. And at a 200K, you want the job security as well as the scoring potential. And I'm not sure either's there.
He's playing pure wing, right? So I think he has that position for the moment. I mean, someone was looking today in the Discord. There's no one really knocking that one down. So I think he might have it. It's just, price and just too much.
Yep. So I think the ones that have played one game, so Paul Curtis and Dempsey played against each other. I think we agree. We liked Curtis a little bit better. Obviously, Dempsey is playing for a better team. Curtis had like 3 shots on goal. I think it was a 1 goal 3 or 0 goals 3, something like that.
1-3, he picked one in the end. But
thought he was all right, getting up the ground a bit too. So I thought he was good. But again, you can't expect much from a first-year small forward in the worst team, probably. So
Dempsey's. I think Curtis is ahead, but Dempsey is still interesting. I'd have to see him play the third.
Second,
but he's a very and be picked for that third.
Oh yeah.
He was playing basketball for the last 4 years and only came back to footy last year. They picked him up and he's just skyrocketed through the preseason. I think Cal Toomey called that he's going to play like a month ago and said he will come into the team soon. So I think there's high raps. So yeah, definitely. Obviously, with a team like Geelong, who aren't renowned for giving them a go, wait till the third game. But I think he could be quite good. But again, another forward-only rookie, and it's just like, I feel, but maybe like a Durden to Dempsey in 2 weeks is what I'm saying, or in a week.
Oh, the problem is Durden's at 205K, and I think he's got a pretty poor break-even coming off of 14. So
60 break-even.
Yeah. So you're kind of looking for him to reset against North. So I think this is the difficult part with both of these. If you've got Roses, Durden, and then Dixon, or even if you don't have Durden and you've just got Roses and Dixon, you don't really want to be bringing in one of those small forwards and then having to play one of them or Roses on field for multiple weeks.
Going to be ready.
So, I think the reality is, even if they make it to game 3, we're probably passing on them.
I think you give up too much points F6. Robbie Mccomb, not good. Give him another chance. I would not go early on him. Played for the Dogs, 102K mature age. I think he's playing wing, I think.
It's like wing, half forward. The role wasn't great, given where he would have been racking it up in the VFL.
He burnt most of the touches that he got. So not sure he plays this week. If he does, great. We'll get another look at him. Look, he's capable of being one we could bring in. I did not like what I saw. I'll just give him another week. 102K in the mids, but would be great if he came through for us. Mm-hmm. And the last one we have here is, so I think Greg Clark is kind of expected to play. Mature age, I think he's 26. Put up crazy waffle numbers, like 120 plus average. Did he win the MVP in the grand final?
I think he kicked like 30 and 2 or something like that.
Yeah, went nuts. 26, 14 tackles and a couple of goals. Just looking at it now. So his last 2 weeks, 18 touches, 9 tackles, and then 25 touches, 7 tackles, and he's gone like 90 dream team in both. So good signs, and he's obviously a tackler, which is really good. So one we're all keen on preseason, and
shoulder injury.
Maybe it's better he's come now, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. I think. And he's one I would against the Tigers. I'd play him. I'd play him M8.
M8 his first game. Yeah,
I won't go early on him because we got Roses and Hayes this week. But I think next week might go early. See how he goes first, but fits the profile of someone who should do well, hopefully. Moving on to captains and vice captains. Clary for me, VC. If you have Gorn, you can do that. into Macrae against the Dons. What are you thinking, JD?
That is what I had, but I'm really considering Wits for the VC this week. Otherwise, I quite like Cripps against North on the Saturday night. I think that's a good option. And if you had Steele against Port, I think that's also a good option. So
quite a lot.
Lots of really good vice captain options this week. And then, I think Macrae against Essendon seems pretty safe. His last 3 against us are 154, 122, and 137. So, really good history.
Yep, I think I'm VC Clary. Like everyone, expect to probably take it against Hawthorn, and then I think I might be Steele as the backup C. If Porter's sort of continuing with those younger boys in the midfield, I don't think anyone can really run with Jack Steele. So I'll be happy to go him or Macrae. See how I feel, but hopefully we don't have to go there.
I don't feel 100% comfortable captaining Cripps, but I'd like to VC him, but I'll just do Oliver VC. So.
Yeah.
And we can all use the Paddy McCartan, I assume, loophole, unless you're trading him out. I think we can hold him. He should be back. Should crawl his way to 300k. Was looking really good, scoring really well. I think it was on like 35 at quarter time, I want to say, or in the early second quarter. And unfortunately,
he always is, isn't he?
Yeah,
he always is.
he's top 10 in the league for intercepts.
Yeah, he's been awesome.
Yeah, he was on track for easily a 60 plus. It's a real shame.
I think I might hold him through the buys because I actually need him.
I was going to say you need someone at D7 once once we're going on, because I don't think there's any defender rookies coming in for the rest of the season. I was having a look yesterday, and obviously there might be, but I don't see any performing in the VFL or other leagues and looking like they're coming in. But
hasn't Gould been really good?
Yeah,
I know it's a bit of a meme at this point.
It is a meme.
Yeah.
How does he get into that team? But
McCartan out, right?
Yeah, but he wouldn't be long term. So
no, but if he plays well enough, I don't know. Is there someone else you could displace in that? Probably not. Actually, thinking about it, it's not going to be either of the brothers
because he's sort of like your medium tall.
Yeah.
You never know. Someone might pop up. Charlie Dean, I think, is still 5 weeks away. I think
3 or 4, I think now. And then there is a GWS guy, Fahey. Don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
So he's been getting mid-20s every week up the top. Don't know if he gets in though, but he's a defender in Supercoach.
Yep.
Anyway, just something to think about.
So I think before we head off, I think I forgot to speak about it. I think getting in players in the first buy round. Before we sign off. So for example, with Jack Steele, so we're not getting him next. We're getting Oliver this week, so then it'll be rounds 8, 9, 10, 11, 4 weeks. Would you bring in someone like a Steele or Walsh or Doherty now, JD, or would you wait till after their buy?
I'm waiting till after their buy for pretty much all of them. I think I've already got 6 premiums that are in the first buy round, and that's a pretty good number. Don't really want to go up much above that. The only exception would be if for some reason someone's at a very discounted price and then was going to have a massively go up, and then maybe for cash reasons you might, but I can't really see that happening in the next 4 weeks to the point that you'd be trying to jump on them before their buy round.
I don't have Cripps, and he's 520, and by the buy he might be 600 again.
So yes, I would be getting Cripps this week.
Yeah, and I have to go Clary this week, don't I?
Yes, just because Cripps break even is still big. So but yes, Cripps is the one. Well, especially because the midfield is where most people aren't going to be stacked with those buy round players.
Swans.
So because you don't have like Blues, GWS, Richmond, Port, Essendon, and then St Kilda, yeah. So if you've got Steele, it's really Steele and Cripps. Those are the 2 that people would have in their midfield. There's the occasional Parashona or something like that. But realistically, that is the one place where you could get another early buy round player and it'd be okay. So yeah, Cripps is still the one next week that I'd be pulling in just to ease value.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. I think we'll sign off now. I do apologize. First 15 minutes or so, we were struggling thanks to this new JD that came out.
Positivity.
But JD, pleasure as always.
Look, the joy in life is becoming a person you're proud of, and I'm proud each time I work out of these podcasts. So thank you, boys.
I can't wait for you to hang up your live, laugh,
Love.
thing in the poster in the background next week. Enno, pleasure as always.
Yeah, I got nothing, mate. I don't have any quotes for you. So
I've got another one.
See you guys
That's
next
good.
week.
You
No.
only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough.
Just end it.
Yep. All right. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.